Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Wednesday, May 31st, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. It's always fun, informative, and entertaining when the Star sports columnists get together, and that's what we have today. Vahe, Gregorian, and Sam McDowell weigh in on several topics, starting with the Chiefs and DeAndre Hopkins. Should the Chiefs pursue the three-time All-Pro? We also talk about the team's impending visit to the White House. After a break, we switch gears and discuss soccer, the recent success of Sporting Kansas City, and Vahe's visit to the KC Current, where he spent a day with the team. Finally, we save the final few minutes talking about Kansas City's new airport. Sports writers fly plenty, and we've all been to the airport several times. What's the consensus of opinion on the new digs? Okay, let's get started. Once in a while, especially during this time of year, we find ourselves looking for stories to write, right, and things to talk about. The Royals are helplessly out of the contention. It's not even June. Chiefs are in OTAs. We're all gearing up for training camp in July. The soccer's off to a slow start, but I do want to get back to the soccer in a minute because things have turned around for both Sporting and, well, for Sporting for sure. Anyway, this is a introduction that says I really don't have a good topic for a podcast. And so who do I call when I don't have a good topic for a podcast? Vahe, Gregorian, and Sam McDowell. Two guys can chew the fat about nothing as well as anybody I know.
I was wondering how you were going to bring that in for a landing. Nicely done.
I was going to say. But here we are. There are a few topics. DeAndre Hopkins hasn't signed yet, released, I think officially. I think it's by the time we record this, which is Tuesday afternoon. I think it's been official now that he's released by the Arizona Cardinals. How about just a really quick thought on whether the Chiefs should sign DeAndre Hopkins or not go after DeAndre Hopkins?
I defer to the economic analyst here, who I think will have a sharp sense of it, better than I do.
When he's not balancing the budget.
Yeah.
I really think not. Especially, I think Odell Beckham Jr.'s one-year deal would probably make DeAndre Hopkins say, he said out the whole season, why can't I get $15 million guaranteed? First of all, the Chiefs just don't have that much salary cap room. They ate a lot of their salary cap room signing, left tackle with Donovan Smith, which I think is a good investment, but it is an investment they already made that probably precludes them from making a significant move, so the player would just have to take a lot less money. I've never thought DeAndre Hopkins would be a good fit for the Chiefs offense. He is a contested catch wide receiver for a quarterback that does not like to throw contested balls. So I don't think he's a great fit here as far as from his perspective. I don't think he should be looking at Kansas City and saying that's the place that's going to get the most out of my talents just because they have a good offense, just because they have a good quarterback and a good head coach. I think you've got other teams that would throw him more 50-50 balls that he would be a good fit for, but so those are two really big hurdles that I don't think make a lot of sense.
Is there a price point that some spot where it's like irresistible?
Yeah, I think the Juju Smith-Schuster deal from last year is probably a good example where it's a heavy incentive deal, a lot less on the upfront guarantees. The thing to keep in mind about all this is it's not just the salary cap. When you guarantee somebody a lot of money, you got to pay them when they sign. And look, the Chiefs have a salary cap budget and they have a cash budget. And those are often two different things. And the cash budget, I think, here is probably smaller than it is a lot of places. We've seen, some recent evidence, even with the Players Association thing. Clark Hunt doesn't like to just willfully spend money on things that he doesn't think are necessary.
So the money is one part of this question, huge part, maybe the dominating part, but the need versus the money is, of course, the real equation. I feel like they can roll with what they've got. I don't know if you guys feel like that. You wrote about it the other day.
Just because they have Justin Watson?
Well, that's a big part of the puzzle. But don't you? I guess look, that's maybe one of the big questions going into the season. But you wrote about it the other day, about 2 weeks ago, I think. what refresh us on what you think that
Yeah, I mean,
they have right now.
I understand why the wide receiver group is a topic of conversation. It's the second straight off season, I think, when you go out and watch practice at OTAs, it's the position I think we're all going to look for the most because it provides the most uncertainty in terms of the depth chart. We don't know who the Chiefs' number 1 wide receiver is going to be next year. We don't even know who their number 2 wide receiver is going to be next year. But I just think it's overstated how much that they lost last year. When you look like McCole Hardman, yes, McCole Hardman signed with the New York Jets. They went 10-1 without McCole Hardman last year. And, you know, they also won a game where he barely played in the AFC Championship game. So 11-1 in games he did not finish last year. They were fine without McCole Hardman on the field last year. Juju Smith-Schuster overall had a good year and had a really good, 4-week stretch. But his last 11 games, he caught 1 touchdown, including the playoffs. And he averaged 40 yards per game. It's not as much to replace. The only thing is, Juju fit the exact same role that Byron Pringle did the year before, Sammy Watkins did the 3 years prior to that, which is he plays more of the X wide receiver, guy that's going to face more press coverage, guy that's going to run a little bit more underneath stuff. And so if you're looking for type of wide receiver, I mean, Hopkins is more of that type of wide receiver. But I also think that's why they drafted Rashee Rice. I think that's the position that they envision him being. So it's always the other thing. I mean, the Chiefs have a lot of young, promising talent at wide receiver. It's Skyy Moore, Kadarius Toney, Rashee Rice. I think you'd like to see those guys get some snaps, right? I mean, I think we all like Skyy Moore, at least to a certain degree last year. And if you're ever going to get anything out of him that's worth that second-round pick, he's going to have to be on the field.
You made some great points about the separation he was getting. And the guy that, I just can't wait to see. And, of course, there is a reason we're having to wait to see because of his injured past, but I can't wait to see a full season of Kadarius Toney. I really think he's maybe one of the X factors in what this team can be.
I spoke to Jesse Newell about this yesterday, our Chiefs beat writer, and he agreed. He thinks it's less likely that the Chiefs will sign DeAndre Hopkins. There are, and of course, there was a report on Monday, was it? SI.com came out with Bills or Chiefs, almost in either war. There are many other teams that are in a better position to sign Hopkins than either the Chiefs or the Bills, just in terms of salary cap and what they already have. When I look at the Chiefs' wide receiver core, I'm looking for the guy who, from this group, has had a monster year as an NFL receiver. And there isn't anybody. There isn't. I mean, even Juju Smith-Schuster last year had some really big seasons in Pittsburgh. Tyreek Hill before him, of course. There isn't anybody who's been, had a leading receiver, a number 1 receiver type of season for his team. But it's not to say that any one of these guys can't do that for the Chiefs this year. And in this offense and with this quarterback, I'm confident that everybody's numbers are going to go up. Jesse also made the point, I thought it was a good one, that you sign DeAndre Hopkins, and what are we looking at? 80 receptions, 111 targets, something like that. That's 110 targets that others aren't going to get. Guys that you want to develop a little bit, like Rice and Toney, and you want to see what they've got. And so,
I think the days of the Chiefs targeting a wide receiver 111 times are probably past.
You're right.
I think that's like the reason that they moved away from Tyreek Hill was because they force-fed a receiver and they became way too predictable. I think that's one of the reasons the variety of skill sets. Wide receiver, the way you build the position generally in the NFL is you're strongest with your depth. Like if you've got 3 wide receivers on the field, you only need one of them to be open. So if you've got the best guy in the field, but he's double teamed, and your 2 and 3 just cannot beat one-on-one coverage, it doesn't matter how good your number 1 is. If your number 3 is really good, then one of those 3 guys theoretically should be open. And I'd also just remind, Travis Kelce is a number 1 wide receiver.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's still here.
There is him.
But I think you're right, and you could say maybe we're retrofitting this to the Tyreek Hill trade, but I think each of us in this room had thought that there's something that had gotten a little predictable / stale, something a little too dependent on the two-headed monster of Travis and Tyreek, that you'd rather have Tyreek Hill than not. On the other hand, it forced diversification of a sort that was going to reset the offense in some ways, and seemed to work out last season.
Somehow.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
You know, Travis Kelce, I'm looking it up now, only lined up on the line of scrimmage 26% of the plays last year. So 3 out of every 4 plays, he's 44% of the time he's in the slot. 30% of the time he's lined up out wide.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yes, they don't have, and by the way, the Chiefs led the NFL last year in putting 3 tight ends on the field. They brought 4 tight ends back this year. I think it surprised us all when they brought back the entire group, because by the end of the season, they had to choose one of those guys not to dress. I mean, Blake Bell didn't get to play the Super Bowl.
Right.
It surprised us all because he'd been playing for a lot, but it was like, well, somebody's got to sit out. So I think what you're going to see is, Kelce continue to play and more of the wide receiver role, because it has increased. So I'm looking at it now. I mean, it was 28% in 2020 that he was in the slot, 32% the year before, jumped up to 45 and 44 these last 2 years. Numbers jumped up as far as how much he lines up wide. So you're looking at, it used to be 1 out of every 3 snaps he was on the line. Now it's 1 out of every 4. I mean, they use him more as a traditional wide receiver now, and it's because they like guys like Fortson, Bell, Noah Gray that could potentially play a little bit more as a traditional tight end. I just think they have ways around this problem.
And in his was it his 33-year-old year, Kelce set a personal best for touchdown receptions.
I think he'll be 34 in October.
Okay.
So it'll be like week 4 or week 5 of the season. Which, I mean, that's a real factor for sure. I mean, it's at some point you're going to see a drop off.
Yeah, some diminishing returns.
Yeah.
No doubt that's going to happen. Who knows when it's going to be?
Yeah.
It wasn't slowed down last year.
No, and it's not like the Chiefs are not spending anything on wide receivers just because they're not going out and getting a DeAndre Hopkins. A second-round pick this year, a second-round pick last year, really a first-round pick the year before, because that's where Kadarius Toney was taken, and they had to expend a third-round pick to get him. I mean, they might not be spending finances on it, but they're spending a lot of capital on it. It's just through the draft, which is the way they're building their entire roster.
Okay, it's been more than a month, or maybe 2 or 3 weeks since the NFL schedule was announced. But we already know the Chiefs' first road trip is coming up next week. They're going to Washington, D.C. They're going to the White House. Sam, you are going to cover that event. Vahe, you have already covered a White House visit with the championship team. Let's start with that. What are your fond memories of visiting the White House with the Royals after the 2015?
Well, it was going to be great no matter what, right? The whole setting is just pretty cool, and we've been lucky to be at the White House. We had a trip there before, but I dare say not many of us get to go to the White House, right? So just start with that, and then the idea of overlaying our people on that, right? And then in that situation, Josh Earnest from Kansas City was the White House press secretary, so there was a certain, I think, extra magic to that. And I think also because it was, I'm not sure this is true, but wouldn't that have been Kansas City's first team to ever go to the White House? Did the '85 Royals go there? I don't know that answer.
It was like an 80.
I don't remember. I remember
something not the 70.
The 88
Chiefs.
Jayhawks went after winning the NCAA. There's a picture of Larry Brown and Ronald Reagan shaking hands. But I don't remember if the 85 Royals went.
I don't either, and I should have checked. I meant to check before we got on the air here.
And we know that the 2019 Chiefs didn't go.
Right. That's offset by COVID, right?
And the first Chiefs winning Super Bowl team, Richard Nixon called Len Dawson in the locker room. After the game. I recently had looked it up and found what year they started this tradition. It started in 1980. So I guess not sure if the '85 Royals would have visited the White House.
And it was across different sports at different times too. I think is part of it. Anyway, pardon me. I digress from the real point. I mean,
yeah, it was 1985. The Royals did go.
They did go. Well, how about that? I didn't know that. But.
Also a Reagan year. So
yeah. So
we got a photo of it. Ronald Reagan. Got manager Dick Hauser.
I'm sure George Brett's right in the thick of it. Out on the lawn.
I don't. Oh yeah, George is here. Willie Wilson, Quisenberry, Frank White, Brett Saberhagen, Hal McRae, Steve Balboni were the ones to attend.
Pretty cool.
Very cool. Yeah, we'll have to get that. We'll have to find that photo somewhere. Maybe it's one of these boxes.
Yeah.
that Sam and I went through the other day.
In the studio here. Yeah. But look, it has a certain magic to it. I guess that's the best way I can put it. And to see, the President of the United States, Barack Obama, and the kind of interplay between the president and the people you follow near and dear to this. I just think that's just so out of the norm for us, and I think that'll be something Sam will really enjoy.
I feel a lot of people meeting the president for the first time, meeting a president for the first time. You can imagine. I mean, certainly don't know all these guys' history, but don't know if Patrick Mahomes has ever shook the hands of a president before, or even Andy Reid for that matter. Right. I mean, obviously came up short in Philadelphia during his time there. Not positive if he had that opportunity when the Packers won, but there's just going to be a lot of people that are experienced. Clark Hunt's never visited, at least in this capacity, as an owner of the Kansas City Chiefs winning Super Bowl team. So,
and I remember, didn't we have some concept of a story idea when Patrick was first getting started here from White House, Texas, to the White House? Here you go. Patrick made a point of saying he'd never even been to the White House, and he's fairly well traveled even before he was with the Chiefs. So. I think Patrick's intriguing in this because he tends to be, despite all his worldliness and all the things he's done, there's a little bit of a wide-eyed aspect to him on something like this. I think he'll really revel in the moment, and I think it'll be interesting if you get to talk to him.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up about Mahomes and how he seems to just be a fan of a lot of sport. He seems to be a fan of sports.
Yeah.
Not just his sport.
Yeah.
The fact that he Derby on Saturday, F1 race on Sunday, because he didn't want to be seen. He wanted to go to the events. He wanted to be there. Now, of course, you're seen when you're Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And you got Brittany with you, and you're posing for photos at the Kentucky Derby. But he's been to other championship events. I can see him, at the Masters. Maybe he's been. Has he been to the Masters?
I don't recall him being at the Masters, but I think you're right. I mean, the catalog is really growing, and what is interesting is, though, that to your point, I mean, he seems to look at it through that lens. It may be innocence too strong, right? But sort of that, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if he literally had a bucket list of I want to get to this and that. I mean, he had a pretty explicit rationale for wanting to go to the Derby. That he'd always wanted to go, couldn't quite go a couple other times, and
right.
Anyway, that's
before he became the starting quarterback here. He went to a T-Bones game, went out to the NASCAR.
Wasn't he? And he was wearing jorts at the, trying to fit in.
He just loves going to games. That's fantastic. All right, guys, let's take a break. There's a couple other topics we need to hit when we come back. We're back on SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Stars daily sports podcast. We are shooting the breeze with star sports columnists Sam McDowell and Vahe Gregorian.
It is a show about nothing, Blair. That's what we do best. I think that's what you were trying to say earlier.
Politely, yeah. Sam, the last time we talked, I believe, was after you wrote a column that was critical of Sporting Kansas City, and manager Peter Vermees. He wasn't critical of Vermees, but it did suggest that he was not, he could, didn't necessarily have the ability to survive a terrible season, and at the time it had been a terrible season for Sporting. Since then, however, 3 wins in 4 games, looked really good on the weekend. Was it Saturday or Sunday? They played Portland. Sunday, 4-1 victory, and they had a kind of a crazy loss before then, but a couple of wins. Anyway, they've been playing pretty well lately. And is it turned around? Do they have it?
I think they're probably somewhere in between. I mean, what are they? 3-1-1, I think, in their last 5.
Good tie in Seattle, right?
Yeah, tie at LA. They beat.
Oh,
Seattle.
LA. That's right. They went to Seattle. That started the win at Seattle.
Yeah. So I mean, the St. Louis match is this weird one because if Sporting was playing really well, you'd probably accept the excuse that they were traveling midweek to LA, traveling back to St. Louis, which should have been their easiest trip of the year, became probably their hardest trip of the year. And St. Louis rested the entire week from home to home. So should have been a legitimate excuse, but I think people are tired of hearing a list of excuses. So it's changed the perception of that one. But overall, yeah, I mean, I think Tim Melia being out is bigger than I anticipated it would be because I thought John Polskamp was a solid number 2, but he's losing playing time to Kendall McIntosh, and I think that could be a concern in close games. I think you could lose a game because of that change. But yeah, they're creating chances. They're like enjoyable to watch. Their games. Like I look forward to watching them play, and it felt like homework for the first couple of months of the season to sit down and watch them play. And like I said, other than that St. Louis match, I mean, you look back at their other 4 matches, these last 5. I mean, Seattle match was an enjoyable match to watch. Obviously, they killed Minnesota, one of the most lopsided games I think they played in a few years. The LAFC was a really entertaining match. And then they played really well against Portland. Obviously, they gave up the first goal in that game, but they played really well in that game. And that's another thing is 2 of these 5 games we're talking about that they've got 2 of the 4 they've gotten points. They allowed the first goal, and for the first 2 months of the season, I think when they allowed the first goal,
it was over.
It was over.
Yeah, and they were not scoring. They got shut out, and was it?
They had 4 goals in 8 matches.
It was ridiculous.
The first 8 matches.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Ridiculous. And it was so odd to look at the standing and see Sporting Kansas City at the bottom, at the very bottom for a while. Glad to see them coming out of this. And Vahe, you spent some time over at with the KC Current, kind of embedded over there for a day. Kind of a little bit behind the scenes. Wrote a nice column from it. What was learned by spending as much time with the KC Current as you did? Did you learn anything, or did it just reinforce some ideas that you had about
a little bit of both? One thing I didn't expect this was sort of a corollary part of the day. I guess I sort of just didn't think about their administrative offices being there, and to walk in through that section of the building. Let's remember that this practice facility they have is still not duplicated in any women's professional sports, but certainly in the NWSL. And I just wasn't prepared to see that there are some 50, 60, 70 people working the floor of this operation from the administrative standpoint of everything from, communications to content to legal to branding and marketing and advertising. So all these things are percolating all the time. That kind of reinforced something I thought but didn't have a visual on. And even though we've been at the building a few times, haven't really been in before, and you got some sense of the pulse of that and really a sense of what that means. I remember, Sam, I think you were out there too, but I remember Blair and I were specifically speaking to, gosh, it eludes me which player it was, but the day they dedicated the facility and when they started talking about all the things they'd been through for women's sports and, playing in, having to get dressed in trailers and going to a place a mile away to go to the bathroom and, just all these ridiculous things that are, from the Jurassic era that should be and now are finally in play for them, to see it in practice was kind of cool. And the thing that actually, it was a very little thing, but it really stuck with me, was going into their dining room and, chef at work, and they're all in there about 8:15, their first meetings at 9:15. I mean, this is a sort of central gathering place for them that they've never had before. And being down the hall and hearing, 12 of them laughing out loud and stuff like that. And you think of what that means to that kind of culture, that kind of feeling, something that you would assume they should have and realize they didn't have. So as far as, I was impressed with what I thought was sort of the sophistication of the operation. The results haven't been there.
Not this season.
Not this season, and so we, as some of our listeners probably know, I mean, they have an interim coach, Caroline Hareblom, who is of Swedish descent, and I found to be a very interesting person who's really got a nice resume, nice set of experiences. They won the first 3 games, first 3 matches, right, Sam? When she took over, matches on the pitch.
Where were they on the table, though?
One was in the
one was a cup game,
okay.
Right? Yeah, I'm speaking overall because the soccer vernacular sometimes is lost on me. It seems like 3 in a row is 3 in a row, whether or not you're in and out of the real season. Is that the right way to put it?
Well, we'll talk. Yeah.
I don't want to give away too much, but all of a sudden it's 4 in the season and 5 overall that they've lost after that. And I enjoyed their game Friday night. They had 6, 7, 8 really good chances to even it up in the second half, or at least to get within one, and they couldn't score. I don't know what the missing element is. And I suppose, the term we're used to using from the Royals is an evaluation season at this point of how they'll handle some of these things in the future. But look, I think we're all impressed with the broader aspects of their operation, and it'd be nice if they can get this part cranked up.
Right. Well, and of course, they got a late jump on the season last year, but once they got rolling, they didn't stop.
It was right about this time last year when they took off toward the championship game.
Got to the title game. And it is an evaluation season for the Royals. I think it's an evaluation era for the Royals. Yeah. It's not just a season, it's an era.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of the Royals, I wanted to spend some time talking about the new stadium, but I think what we'll do, we'll put that off until our next conversation. I know we're all kind of curious about where things stand and how it's going, but there is another civic project that I wanted to speak to you guys about, and we'll dedicate this last portion of the show to our old friend Therese Paylor, who often engaged us in a little conversation that he'd like to call "We Rip Your Airport." And with the new Kansas City airport open for the last, what was it, February? What it dedicated to March?
It was just after the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah. Was it March 1 or so that it opened?
Yeah, we didn't fly back from Phoenix to the new airport. That was still the old airport.
That's correct, but it was before the Big 12 tournament.
Right.
So late February, early March.
I think it was like March 1-ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe.
I want to get your guys' impressions. I know the Star is working on a story and a kind of a project about the first 3 or 4 months of the airport with the early impressions. Well, let's beat them to the punch. You guys travel, sports people travel as much as anybody at the newspaper, so we've all had multiple visits to the airport. Vahe, lead us off.
Yeah, I've been about 7, 8 times. I think I flew out of the old airport on the last day of it and back into the new airport on the second day it opened.
7 or 8 times.
Yeah. It's just
2 months.
Yeah, it's just really, it's been a lot. There've been a couple vacations, which you don't know about because you don't take them. Couple of vacations
so
and
on one trip, does that count as 2 visits? To
that's
the
2.
airport? Okay.
Yeah.
Out and back.
No, actually, 6, 7 round trips, something like that.
Is it really?
Yeah, we had a couple. There was NCAA tournament to be played. Spring training.
That's right, because I was driving the NCAA tournament.
Oh yeah, so you drove.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but look, my feeling is nothing but good. I mean, I like it. It feels clean, well lighted place. And you come in, and unlike the drab kind of lifeless feeling of the old KCI, at least in the last decade or so, you can fly in at 7:30 or 8 o'clock, and all those restaurants are open. And there's a lot. I mean, there's 12, 15 restaurants you'll walk by, and 4, 5, 6 are real sit-down places, but 5, 6, 7 are grab and go and good stuff.
Many more than the old place.
And good brands on them. I mean, things that you don't feel like you're walking through generic airport anywhere. This airport says Kansas City, which I think is really cool. obviously the big glitch that everybody's talked about, I haven't encountered it yet, but is the tendency to get backed up coming in to pick people up. But I just haven't hit that. We've Ubered a couple times. We've parked there a couple times. I've parked long-term a couple times. Everything's really been pretty easy. We pay for the TSA pre, so our experience getting in is maybe easier than some, but I've never noticed the line backed up, and I keep hearing the line's never backed up. So more than you wanted to hear from me, but I feel nothing but positive about it.
Sam?
I've just never walk into airports thinking this is the point of my trip. So to me, it was always about the convenience. I do think the old one was still slightly more convenient for those of us going in and out from Kansas City. But, I think the airport's great for the city itself. So, and you know me, I always think of other people. So I'm all for it.
I think what you meant to say was I always think strategically.
There is a lot of walking in the new airport. Especially because we often fly Southwest because that's what we fly for our jobs. Things can get canceled. We need to have cancelable flights. And the Southwest terminal or area of the terminal is
they're in the 60s or the 50s.
Yeah, high
gates.
50s.
It's definitely more walking than the last one.
But you're talking about 6 minutes long.
Don't mind that at all when you're getting there. I think when you get home, sometimes you're ready to get back in your car.
Yeah.
There's less walking outside usually, though. So it probably would be a pretty nice trade-off once we get to these December Chiefs games that we're traveling to.
Yeah.
You're right. It feels more like Kansas City. I've been twice. It wasn't quite as busy as what you described it. Whenever I went, I thought it was pretty quiet there, but it's not really. I don't need to go into a bar scene at the airport anyway.
But it makes me think of the passenger coming through, right, and what their experience is.
Sure,
if they're whether they're arriving, but
first experience
most often
for them a lot of times.
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
Well, it was the old airport was a nightmare for changing planes. Now for
we never
those,
had to change
we
planes.
we don't, but but others do, and so it's I think it's a great airport for that. My last visit to the airport was to pick up my wife, who was coming in from a trip, and
so did you get stuck in the?
I did not because I parked in the surface lot.
Yeah.
So I left my, I got there a half hour before a flight landed.
Yeah, we're not supposed to give away that trick. But
Well, nobody listens to the podcast anyway.
Well, look,
so.
actually, it's for a higher cause, which is something you wouldn't know about. But the idea is that help others.
Our spots are going to be gone. We're parking this long-term area now.
So, but to extend the trick even farther,
I went to the surface lot. It was terrible. So wouldn't recommend it.
You can enter the garage from the surface.
Just walk through,
lot.
right?
Well, or you can drive through. There's a gate that lets you drive through.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So if you see one of the green lights for the parking area, you just drive through to the garage. You get even closer to the garage. I say this because it was about 11 o'clock at night. Karen's flight was on time. She comes out. It's just a short little walk to the car. We leave the airport. We get to, what is it, Burn Street? Is it Burn? The one where the exit? There's Paris, there's Burn. Anyway, cars are backed up to that for pickup. I could not believe the length of cars. It's like the final scene in Field of Dreams where the cars are all coming into the cornfield from miles away. I said, oh, my God, these people must be waiting for an hour just to get to the terminal. It's
you just thought those poor people off driving off.
So wait a minute, though, just to clarify.
I had some empathy. I didn't go full Sam McDowell.
So you didn't encounter that upon your time of arrival, or you were able to, you averted that by the lane into the parking is.
Well, that's right. I got a half an hour. You're going to make a pickup, right? You would go a half an hour, try to be there. From 15 minutes to a half an hour before that person arrives, if the flight's on time. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to go to the cell lot. I don't need to do that. If I have to pay for parking, it cost $1 to do what I did.
Right.
I'd pay $5 to $6 to not wait in line for an hour to pick up somebody.
But the point is also you can make that choice as you're driving up because you're just going to go. the lanes split there in
That's
such
right.
a way that if you're deciding to go in and park, you're getting out of that line.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
There's even cover, in the surface lot that'll
Yeah.
take you into the garage. So,
Well, pro move.
listen, if we can help just one person avoid the stupid lines that people still haven't figured out.
The way to do this is Chicago theoretically has this, although I went there once and nobody was doing this.
Midway.
Yeah, you're supposed to have people out there working that says you can't park here.
Right, move along.
It's move along.
Yeah.
You got to pick somebody up or you got to go to the cell phone line.
Yeah.
And I did get stuck one time at Midway, and it must have been after hours where those workers were no longer there because it was almost midnight, and somebody was picking me up, and I can see them. I can see their car, and it was literally an hour and a half, and it was 5 degrees outside. So you're just standing outside because you never know when the traffic's finally going to break. And so I could totally understand why, if somebody's had that experience, it sounds like Mitchell Schwartz has had it a couple times.
Yes, it does.
that would be incredibly frustrating to sit through. And even more so because I think it's a very simple solution. You can't park there.
Yeah.
Well,
You got to keep moving. If your person's not there, you got to. If you had gotten there 30 minutes early, you can't wait on Karen for 30 minutes. You got to wait till she calls and then drive up.
Yeah, or pay $1 and park 150 yards away.
The part of that that's never been too clear to me is whether or not the Uber situation is also part of that. I mean, are you waiting just as long on your Uber because they're funneling in?
I saw
same lanes?
I saw the blue lights in the windshields when I was driving. So that's Lyft, I think. They're blue, right? I saw them in line along with all the other people.
How terrible is that?
That's awful.
Yeah.
I mean, that's terrible. Now
Yeah.
you're looking at your phone, and now it's going from 3 minutes to 7 minutes to 12 minutes to 15 minutes, and
I really can't understand the mindset, and I guess it's just hardwired over decades, but the mindset that says, I'm going to go sit here and sit, and not have any cognizance of those around you.
right.
I don't know. For time it happened to me, I got into a few yelling matches with people that were doing that, though.
I can see that. I can see that.
I don't know if we're burying the lead, but the last thing about this is, I mean, the whole point, I guess I was bringing up how bright and nice looking it is. Yeah, no, I just mean that it isn't it nice to welcome people to town. However, it is we pick them up there instead of the old place. I mean, honestly, I got to be embarrassed about picking up people at the old place, trying to say, hey, look, the whole city isn't like this.
When you had people coming to town, it was inevitable that if they were visiting for the first time, they were going to mention the airport at some point.
That was the conversation driving away from the airport. How bad the airport was.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you guys, because I can't remember this. If you're in the baggage claim area, can you take an escalator back up to ticketing?
I've never tried to do it.
I'm just trying. I know there are stairs that go up. I don't know if there's an escalator because that's not the natural flow of traffic.
But there's an elevator there that goes up and down.
Because I would consider doing that too. If I'm arriving, getting my baggage, I would go back upstairs to arrivals. There's nobody waiting there.
It's in my mind's eye.
Pick me up there.
I picture 2 escalators going down from the main level, an elevator in between, and I think parallel escalators coming up on the other side. I feel like there's other escalators on the other side, but I'm kind of only guessing.
But I would guess
Actually, that can't be right because that's a secured area.
I would guess the bottom of that funnel would be the issue, though, rather than the top of that funnel, in which case you still would probably run into that backup, right? Because that'd be before it would split to the arrivals and departures area.
Yeah, yes.
So you'd probably still be stuck back there even if you did that.
That's right. It just once. I mean, that's a good
It would
point.
save you the end of the
at
funnel.
the end, but there's not an open lane for arrivals.
Yeah.
To clarify the point I'm making, you're coming out of the secured area down that escalator,
right?
And there's not an equivalent going back up because you're behind the secured area. I think if you come in that bottom level, there's an escalator immediate left and go up, or immediate right and go up. This is hard to explain and visualize, but what's your question?
Well, all I'm saying is just another alternative to
instead of being on that main level.
Well, instead of on the baggage claim level, waiting for your ride to come pick you up. If the ride's upstairs on the arrival, which it's not where it's supposed to be, but I'm just trying to use all the tricks in the bag here to make it a more pleasant trip to the airport. So we didn't rip the airport, as Therese often did on his podcasts and his shows, which was a lot of fun because we spent a lot of time talking about Atlanta and LA and
three of us
Arizona.
Three of us are much better at ripping things than compliment things.
All right, guys. Thanks for the conversation.
Thanks, Blair.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to Randy Mason for putting together the show, and to our SportsBeat KC staff of Monty Davis, Jeff Rosen, and Scott Chasen. Tip of the cap to Sam McDowell and Vahe Gregorian for sharing their insights. Morning Sports Edition is the best digital sports page in the USA. See what I mean by going to liveedition.kansascity.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in Kansas City every day.